to start a little early today. Hopefully that's good with you guys. I just feel like jamming for a little while, so I'll give you guys some time to come on in early today. Hopefully that's good. See what you guys. I just feel like jamming for a little while, so oh, there. Computer's making sound. I can't have that going. That's good. All right, good. All right. So let's get the Tone Forge Jeff Loomis to show up there, because that's what I'm playing through as usual. I think I'll go over to Guitar Practice Tools and put on a drone. Probably share this while I'm on Facebook. Let me take a second here and do that. Every little bit helps, right? Let me know in the comments if you can hear me, by the way. That would be fantastic if there's audio this time around. Let's see. We have something nifty going on here. Let's see. That should be live on the ShredMentor page. That's facebook.com/ShredMentor. There it is, there it is. That's up on there. Know my story. I hate stories. Share now public. Whatever, it's on my story. People see that now too. What's up? I am actually live.
You're live, right?
Yep. Hey, Matthew. Thanks for joining me tonight. Still got 5 more minutes. I think we need another note. That's all E. Let's try something. Let's try C sharp. That's fun. This is my warm-up, by the way, for today. Not really, not planning much of anything for what this is supposed to lead to, but it's very much in the vein of what this whole session is going to be about. So hopefully you get a lot out of what I'm about to show you tonight. How have you been, Matthew? I know you said you got a guitar a little while back. I'm interested to hear what you actually got. If you feel like sharing it on here, if not, that's okay too. Let's see what else we got. C sharp, fun stuff. Fun. Let's try something else that's not directly related here. Let's try G sharp. I always have a hard time with those downward slides. It should sound very weepy. I think I've really kind of underdone it when it comes to practice. Oh, we got 1 more minute. Yeah. Oh, good. Matthew's back. I have a Jackson JS32 modes. Okay, training for ESP, the EC1000. Yes. Not that I have anything against Jackson, but I'm a very big fan of an EC1000. They usually have EMGs in them. The one I have has Seymour Duncans. It's like they did like one model that has sort of a sunburst type thing. Let me turn off my drone real quick and get ready for the intro here because, here we go. There we are. Welcome back to ShredMentor Live. I'm your host, Jason Aaron Wood, and tonight in episode 41, we are going to be dealing with modes. That's right. Oh, wait. Where is it? Got to do it. Modes! Sorry, I blasted you in the face with the sequences one last week over and over again, and, you know, that was fun, right? That one. But yeah, tonight it's modes, all right, and we're going to be doing a lot with that. All right, and let's just jump over to the control panel, okay? I was talking with Matthew for the minutes leading up to this about the really cool guitar he's gonna get. That's good. I wonder, let me know in the chat what the timeline is and when you think you're gonna do that. It's pretty cool. Anyway, tonight I am going to hopefully help you get over a hurdle that I have found through my years of teaching. I've been teaching for about 14 and a half years now. And I would say that just about every student that has come to me, even if they knew some theory, they usually struggled with getting over modes, getting past that, getting it to make some sense, okay? And not that, all right, here's the thing. Most people who even know what modes are have kind of a limited idea of what it is. When you want to learn modes, most people get something like this. And I recommend this book as a reference book. Like, I recommend this encyclopedia. It's not going to be your entire knowledge base, though, right? That isn't how that works, okay? And books like that are super dense with information. I love the Guitar Grimoire Scales and Modes book in particular. I think it's a fantastic book. But learning exclusively about modes from a book is you're doomed to have some very limited knowledge, because what we are studying is sound. So let's try that. Shh. You hear that? Me neither. So no matter if you have page upon page upon page of all the dot patterns and where to put your fingers and everything, it doesn't mean a goddamn thing if you can't hear it. And of course you're supposed to play. Are you really supposed to play every single scale in that book, though? That'll take you forever, and then you still won't be anywhere because you're just reciting patterns on the fretboard. That's not all that modes is, and that is what I'm here to tell you tonight. It's not inherently wrong to say that modes are starting the scale from a different note, starting the same scale from a different note. And tonight, to make that all easier, by the way, everything's going to be in A minor. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? We're going to use scale degrees so that you can use this concept, and what I'm going to show you tonight in any key, but just to demonstrate it, I'm going to keep this as alphabetically convenient as I possibly can, and that means using the A minor scale, which is the C major scale, but tonight C is 3, just like it is in the alphabet, okay? A is 1, minor is cooler, let's just accept it, okay? Because we're here at ShredMentor, and dark stuff is just a little better. Okay, sad and serious wins the day. And so, just for your convenience, A equals 1 tonight. A is the root note of the key, and what I'm going to be showing you, I have my own little simple diagram, but we're going to be using a special tool tonight, and that is going to be within the Guitar Practice Tools interface. Surprise! Now, of course, it's not up on the screen because I didn't pull it up first. So you'll see this, okay, and when you want to get to this in your Guitar Practice Tools interface, if you don't have this, go to guitarpracticetools.com, start yourself a free 7-day trial, and go ahead and do this along with me. Now, my backing tracks, it's the second one here. Now, I've already pulled it up. It's going to actually go to the Beats page, okay? So after that, you're going to get a page that looks just like this almost, except it's going to be the Beats red link right there. Go over here and click on Drones, and I've already preloaded this, so you can see this is great on here because I was just jamming to it just, you know, before the session started tonight, okay? But tonight, okay, I'm going to play the notes of the A minor scale behind me playing things in the A minor scale, because that's a big part of what modes are, okay? So we are, let's see, how far are we into this? Right now it's 8:04. I started about 15 minutes in. So you jump to about 18 to 19 minutes into this video, and I'm going to tell you the secret right now. What modes really are, aside from a scale that starts with at a different note within the scale, like starting at the A minor scale from B. Still A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but starting from B, or starting from D. Starting from another scale is part of what modes are, but more importantly, pay close attention. This is what modes really are. Modes are how each note of the scale makes the rest of the scale sound. Okay? If you were making a painting, the mode you're in, let's say you only have 7 colors to work with. The mode is the background color you choose out of the 7 you have to choose from. Okay? So it's almost as diverse as the, a simple pack of Crayola crayons. They have an 8-pack. We have it. Well, you know what? Let's just leave out black. Let's just do the non-black and white colors, okay? And there you are, a very simple pack of crayons. Which of the 7 colors that you have, if you take out black, which one are you going to use as the backdrop? If you use red, it's going to be a very different color or overall feeling than if you use blue or green or purple or yellow. That's essentially what modes really are. And you're still going to have the same color scheme. That's sort of what the key is in this case. All right. So hopefully this analogy makes sense. I don't want to tie any particular note to a certain visual color because that's taking the analogy too far. But it's hardly the first time anyone has ever made the analogy between musical sound and color. But in this case, this is a great place to use it because that's what modes sort of are. They're like the backdrop. They're going to set the tone for the whole scene. Now, what I really mean, to take that analogy back to what that really looks like, is when the chord changes in the music. If I'm in A minor and I'm playing an A minor chord, and then I switch to an F chord. Well, A, B, C, D, E, F. F is 6, A is 1. That's a 1-6 progression. When I switch from A minor to F major, which notes I'm going to focus on in my melody kind of change a little bit too. Not a whole lot, actually. All right, but I'm going to demonstrate that a little bit. But anyway, this is the tool, as you see over here, right next to me on the screen. You can see the drones player, and I'm going to be playing notes from it. Okay, and here I'm going to actually, let me start the A. And again, I'm going to be playing an A minor scale. I am going to start it from the A string. I have a 7th string, by the way, so ignore that. But I'm going to be playing from the 5th string, 12th fret. And I'm just going to limit myself to 1 octave at first, okay? So let's just start with an A, and here's an idea of how this kind of works, okay? And let's get the modes here. So modes will be down here, okay? And you can still see next to that little image where the note, which note I'm going to be playing. So this is A, and I'm going to play an A minor scale over it. So this is color number 1. So that would be 1. The one in the center here is the note is the background drone, and the notes from the scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 3 highlighted notes in the little circles are the chord tones for that note. So from A, B, C, D, E. 1, 3, and 5 are that's the formula that we count from whatever note is in the background, from whatever the chord root is. That's how we get the chord tone. So when A is active, the hot spots are 1, 3, and 5 in the scale. A, B, C, D, E. In any octave, it doesn't matter. But A, C, and E are the hot spots against that backing note. So the mode is very much tied to the basic chord of that note, okay? So if I change from the A, wish I had a way to do this all at the same time, but I'm going to switch to B, but I'm still going to play, here we go. Now, no longer is it 1, 3, 5, it's 2, 4, 6. Here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Sounds very different against that. The melody is the same, but that focus is no longer on 1, 3, and 5, or A, C, and E. It's on B, 2 notes higher than that, C, D, and 2 notes higher than that. F, which is actually rather dissonant in this case. The 5 happens to be a flat 5. This is the one place from the second note of the minor scale. This is the one place where you don't really have 3 consonant notes. This is called Locrian, by the way, but that's less important than knowing it's the second mode of the minor scale. You can still make cool sounds from here, but they're a very, very different kind of color. Now I'm going to go to the note C, and I'm going to play notes just from the A minor scale. I'm going to limit myself to the same octave of notes, and now notes 3, 5, and 7. C, there's my root note. C, D, E, F, G, A. So A doesn't feel like home base anymore. C does. So does E a little bit, not quite as much, but G locks in very nicely as well. So this is the 5 of the scale, while the 3 is playing in the background. Similarly, okay, I'm going to get into a little more detail with these as we go, and I'm going to demonstrate all 7 of them, okay? D, just the natural notes here, okay? Still A minor. Alright, so it sounds very D minor, except there's some things. Oh, whoops, forgot to switch it to 4. Sorry, yeah, there we go. 4, 6, and, well, 8 is just 1 again, so we don't see the every other note thing visually as much, but that's all that is. It's just A, which is the 5th, is 4, 5, 6, 7, well, 8 would have been the 5th note, but that's just 1 again, because that's the octave. Alright, so that's going back to hitting that D again. Just ascending up from the D. That just sounds like D minor. The difference is if I kept going, rather than the first example is still using the B natural of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's a B. Whereas if I was playing actually the key of D minor, they would have a B flat and a flat 6. From D by itself, this sounds to my ear a little bit better, but this is not wrong or anything. It's just there is a D minor chord in the key of A minor. And that's called Dorian, by the way. So when you hear that word thrown around, it's just the minor chord that happens on the 4 of the scale instead of the 1. All right, so that's the idea. All right, let's go to 5, and there's a little image for 5. 5, 7, and 9. 9 becomes 2, so it's just, you only have 7 different notes. We use those higher numbers like above 8 or 8 and above so that we can create chords easily. 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, 7, all that's easy until you hit 4. 4, 6, 1? What's 2 notes higher than 6? Well, 6, 7, 1. That doesn't feel very, it's not very intuitive, okay? So we use those higher numbers, 4, 6, 8. And we can keep counting every other note all the way. That's where 13ths come from. So you can just count every other note. So 3, 5, 7, 4, 6, 8, 5, 7, 9, and so on. 9, though, it's just 2. It's just B again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A is the 8th note. B is the 9th note. C is the 10th note, and so on. So we use those other numbers for that reason, okay? Hey, Dan. Rock on. Oh, sorry, Dan. Yeah, I'm sorry. Matthew also commented earlier. Mine will be Blackburst with Seymour Duncan Pegasus Sentient Set. Nice. Okay. I'm not familiar with those particular ones, but I look forward to hearing something with those. All right, so A minor again. This is what Phrygian is. This is your E minor triad in this case. E, F, G, that's your third of the chord. It happens to be the seventh of the scale, but because remember, A is 1, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G is 7. But right now, it's the third. So the thing is, they occupy a certain number within the scale hierarchy, but that doesn't matter if that's not the chord. If the one chord isn't playing right now, then it doesn't really matter what the number is in the scale. It matters where it is in relationship to the chord that's playing right now. Okay, so once again, the chord playing right now, well, the root note playing right now, E. It's the way that E makes the whole rest of the scale sound. The emphasis is on the E, of course, and the G, and the B, which is the fifth, but it's in the bass in this particular location. And I am going to talk a little bit about scales being a different location on the fretboard as well, a different starting point within the scale, because that's not wrong, as I said earlier, but I find it to be a little bit of a minuscule piece of what's really important to be able to use this. So you see the hot spots, sort of. I keep calling it the which notes to play during which one. I'm going to switch up to F right now. So that'll be the 6. Again, I'm just going to play the A minor scale. A works really nice because that's actually F, G, A. So that's actually the third. B, C. F, A, G, B, C. So there we go. There's our third, fourth, fifth, 6th, 7th, and here's the root of the chord. That's note 6, but 7, 1. We have the third again. This one's called Lydian, by the way. It's a nice dreamy kind of sound by itself. So you could just start a note. This is, I basically use the notes of the A minor or C major scale here. Same scale, same 7 notes anyway, but it's a very dreamy, almost kind of innocent kind of sound. Doesn't sound dreamy, innocent meaning it's like not ominous in particular. I really like this. It's actually one of, it's a very common sound in Joe Satriani's music, by the way. But you can find that sound built right into your scale, just like that, you know. It's on mode 6 of your minor scale. So if you tend to lean more minor like I do, then whatever mode 6 is in your minor scale, that's where that sound already lives. So let's go to our 7th and finish this demonstration up here. Mode 7 has the hot spots switch to 7, 9, and 11, which is 2 and 4. Okay, 7, 9, 11. Every other note: 7, 9, 10, 11. Well, 9 is 2, and 11 is 4. Okay, so that basically means that A minor there's the root note of the chord, it's the 7th of the scale, 6, 5, 4, that's the 5th in the bass, 3, 2, that's the 3rd in the bass. It's a certain, it sounds actually very similar to Dorian in a way, but it's actually like a majorized version of Dorian, which was the 4. That was the sound that we got at D in this key. Okay, anyway, I just wanted to demonstrate what I was saying earlier. Okay, so just to repeat that, and I really want to drive this point home. The mode, in the most practical sense of how you're going to use it, is how each note of the scale makes the rest of the scale sound. Okay, each of those notes, I just chose one note out of the 7 to be the backing note, the context note. That's like on a painting, it's the background color over which you're going to paint all the rest of the picture. Okay, each one of them affects it drastically, a lot. Okay, every single note in that scale shifts, and sometimes it's going to be one of the 3 hot spots. 1 out of 7 times it's going to actually be the root note going on right now, the functional root note of the chord, because that's essentially all this is. Basically, this is what happens when you go from chord to chord to chord in the music. Now, this is what happens when you go from chord to chord in the music in one key. Okay, now more complex ideas can be done once you get the hang of this in one key and start to involve different keys. And next week, I'm actually going to get into some of that more advanced stuff, specifically going into killer chord changes, which is next week's topic. But I want to build on this because we really need to understand what's going on here. These are 7 specific flavors that are built right into every major and minor scale. I'm starting from a minor perspective, but major lives on mode 3. So right there, what we're calling 3, 5, and 7. In A minor, that's C, E, and G. Well, in C major, C is 1. So that suddenly becomes 1, 3, 5. So the number relationships are exactly the same if you just don't worry about what's sharp and what's flat. Just remember where your notes are. That, remembering where your notes are, is where something like this comes in, or maybe even better, something like this. This is also part of Guitar Practice Tools, but this is the Guitar Practice Whiteboard. It's the very, very first one. So once again, if you don't have access to this, go to guitarpracticetools.com right now. Go ahead and set up a free trial, 7 days, all entirely free. Don't like it, cancel, that's fine, but you'll like it. But anyway, Guitar Practice Whiteboard is the very first one, and it's kind of the main tool right now. But you go over here, and I've preloaded it once again. But with all of these, now some types of scales only have like 5 notes in them, like minor pentatonic. I made that first because I feel like it's kind of the default scale if you're just new to the fretboard, and it's a good place to start. Only 2 notes to remember per string, but you still have 5 different notes. So this is where the different starting places come in, okay? The numbers are just where they would happen in the scale. You'll notice in this scale, there is no 2 and there is no 6. It just goes right from 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 to, where'd 6 go? Straight to 7. This is because note 2 is still either right here below, a half step below 3, or a whole step below 3. Either way, you only have 2 choices between 1 and 3, so take a guess where 2 is going to be. One of them. This is so that you can tap into the Aeolian, which is what we call minor, that Aeolian flavor, or the Dorian flavor, or the Phrygian flavor, because they still have the root note here, the 3rd here, and the 5th here. Okay, that's just, all these flavors come down to how far apart all the notes are from wherever the note is that you're focusing on. Okay, so that is a little bit of modes. This is another aspect. This is more of how a book would approach modes. I can basically, this approach to modes, which is what all the books about modes, including this one, which I'm not knocking it, but I'm just trying to illustrate the weakness of exclusively using books to understand modes. And this is my favorite. This is my favorite book about music that I didn't write. Sorry, yeah, anyway, not to be pompous here, but I feel like this kind of a book, most of the books you'll find out there, overcomplicate it while under-delivering. Okay, and that is what I don't want to do here. All right, but I will talk a little bit about the value in the approach that a book can deliver. It's limited because, as I showed you earlier, nope, not getting those flavors I just demonstrated. You need sound to be able to experience that. I didn't hear a damn thing just now. So we're going to get, I'm going to get into some more of the demonstration of sound, but I will talk about what is of value in books, because I'm not going to knock the whole thing. We don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and there is part of what a mode is that is basically a scale in and of itself. Okay, if I play my A minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. From A to A, I'm actually going to move down a little bit. I'm going to move down an octave. That gives a certain quality. It essentially, even without the reference note, okay, I basically, you know what, there's what I'll do. Let me switch to drones. I gotta change my zoom here. There we go. That jumps across the page sometimes. Here's my drone A. All right. And here is, now this is an E minor scale. Don't worry, pretend I'm playing this from the 5th fret. Sorry, I made all my diagrams in E minor, but in this case, doesn't matter. Okay, I can play, I'm just gonna play from 1 to 1, or A to A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Even without that note there in the background, you get the general idea. Right? Sounds final, and you get the general vibe of A being the note we're returning to. If I play from B to B using A, B, C, D, E, F, G only, since I'm starting at the bottom from a B and going up to a B and stopping there, it's also the highest note you ever heard in this phrase. So it kind of stands out, and it's the same note as what I started on, just in a different octave. It has the same kind of overall feel. Doesn't feel as final or resolved as the A, but it is a flavor uniquely unto itself. You know, it's its own unique flavor. Okay, and so on. From C to C has its own flavor. That's your standard, that's your major sound. That's the sound we call major. That's on mode 3 of the minor scale. Okay, from mode 4, D. From D to D, again, not the D minor scale, but D, E, F, G, A, B natural, C, D. It's a minor sound overall, but a little less dire, a little less desperate sounding than regular minor. It's more common in blues-based rock, but it can also sound very Celtic, which I'll show you some of that a little later too. From E to E, this is Phrygian. This is the Spanish guitar sound. Right, that's the Phrygian sound. It's also a minor sound. It's also, in addition to the Spanish guitar sound, this might be a little less common in America, but it is also this sort of very ancient Greek kind of sound to it. It's that's why I purposely did. That's a very common, actually it's also a very common sound in Arabic music, to be honest too, but and so it can have a very ancient Greek kind of sound to it too. So, you know, basically play stuff in that mode and watch something like Troy or Alexander or something, some ancient Greek movie with the sound off. You'll get what I'm talking about. Anyway, last two modes here, F to F. It's a major sound, but it has this sharp fourth. One whole step, rather than half step, you go another whole step. Whole step, whole step, half step. That's how you get root third, fifth, but you have this sharp four in there. And that's the one I said earlier. It's got this this sort of innocent but dreamy, kind of wondrous kind of sound. It's mysterious but not ominous. But that happens to just live at the sixth mode. And it's apparent just by playing from F to F. Sounds a little less final than if it was F major. That's F major. Raise the 4 to an F sharp. Raise the 4 to a B natural, I'm sorry. It gets a very different kind of flavor just by changing that one ingredient. And then G. From G to G, it almost sounds major also, but it's a different flavor of major called Mixolydian. As opposed to G major, which would have been just the raised 7, which makes it major. So we're actually flatting the 7 from what it would have been in G major. So it's a G major chord, that is the root, 3rd, and 5th are the same, but the 7 isn't. That's why C major. All right, so each of these points within the scale is the home of one of 7 very different colors. Now there's another way we can approach this too, okay? Each of these modes is a scale in its own right. Hey Vicky, welcome. Glad you could join us tonight. Vicky, by the way, is the DJ at one of many DJs at MetalDevastationRadio.com, and she hosts Lady Red's Bath of Blood on Saturday nights. I believe it's 8 p.m. Eastern, so check her out. She's got some kick-ass music on her show. That's, again, MetalDevastationRadio.com. So in addition to taking those modes and treating that, basically every one of those modes is sort of a scale in its own right. I can play, the A minor scale from any one of the notes in the A minor scale and just treat that like it's the root note. So I can just, just go with a D minor. Right? I keep coming back to D, and I'm treating it like it's the root note, but I'm purely using the actual A minor scale in this case. So it doesn't sound weird or anything. It's just that's one of the sounds of rock right there. That's called Dorian. That was a D Dorian riff that I just pulled out of my ass. And it all comes down to treating it like minor, but purposely using the major 6th of the scale. And notice I didn't go, because that's not really how you use Dorian. I'm not going to get into how to do that. I'm going to do a separate episode, not next week either, but maybe the one after that, about kind of how to use the modes. But I want to more introduce you to the idea and really clarify how, once again, the mode itself is one of the flavors. It's the flavor that each note gives the rest of the scale, because each of the 7 notes in a given scale flavors the entire key one of 7 ways. And so that's sort of what that does. So this one, as opposed to minor, you hear that sound a lot more. It's more of the epic kind of sound. It's a little less dark sounding, but it's its own kind of cool sound. It's a different flavor, and it can be used in riffs. It doesn't lighten the mood so much, but that's the difference between something like Dorian and Aeolian. Knowing which ingredient is different between the two. By the way, I have a ShredMentor strategy specifically about that, and it's called the scale comparison strategy. You're not juggling a million scales, so it's not going to get crazy, but you want to use 2 different scales that are 1 note away from each other, okay? Like Dorian and Aeolian. Aeolian is the mode that we just call a minor, by the way. That's A minor is Aeolian. Aeolian is what minor is. It's the actual Greek mode name. If you're going to memorize any of them, I recommend you memorize Aeolian is minor and Ionian is major. For me, Ionian, I think of like an ion. It's I-O-N. I-A-N. But anyway, the first 3 letters are like ion, like a charged atom. And to me, it's major is happy, joyous, kind of active ion, like an activated atom, like it's got like an extra electron, and it's super joyous about it. It's really energized. All right, so to me, that always helped me. But Ionian is major, Aeolian is minor. You don't have to worry about the names of them too much, but this does come up, and that is what the sound is called. So it's a pretty good idea to memorize at least those. You can get them all eventually. I actually memorized Phrygian pretty early on because I used it all the time. I didn't memorize the names of the others until I was playing for 14 years. I put a post-it note on my cubicle wall, and instead of working every day, I sat there trying to memorize it and see if I could list it in order. And eventually, I didn't have to look at it anymore because I did. But I already knew all my modes. I just didn't know them by their Greek names because it's all Greek to me. I had to use it. But no, seriously, it's just we don't use this in conversation. And in fact, the original, what we think of as ancient Greek cultures that go by the names of Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, those people would be pissed off as hell to be associated with each other at many points in history because they were enemies. They were mortal enemies of each other in many cases. They were not Greeks together. And in fact, about 1,000 years ago, some of the monks that discovered these modes got them all mixed up and they renamed them anyway. So what we're currently calling that isn't what they used to be called anyway. But it doesn't matter. This is what they're called now. So anyway, you don't need to know that, but that was the order. Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. Then it starts over at Aeolian again, at least in natural minor. I'm not going to get into harmonic minor, but it all works the same. Every diatonic scale that is a 7-note scale, every diatonic scale works exactly the same way as what I showed you on the screen there, which is just whichever one I left off on, still on the screen. So let's get that out of there. All right, so anyway, that's sort of how that works. Now, why do I need these notes? All right, let's make a little more sense of why do I need to bother playing the A minor scale from all over the fretboard. Well, here's the thing. I might want to play in a different range of notes. All right, I'm going to get out of here right now. I don't need this. I don't need I need you to hear the sound and listen to me paint with sound over it. Okay, so if I want to play over, remember, let's go back to that mode 1. See how I want to hit notes 1, 3, and 5 somewhere. It doesn't matter what octave, because there's 3 specific ingredients that work exactly the same in every octave. All right, so I might go down here. So when I play my melodies, I kind of make my way back there, and I use these different scale shapes as a guide. And I make my way back to one of the notes that is 1, 3, or 5, and it gives me access to A, B, C, D, E, F, G if I don't want to necessarily be down here at 5, or maybe I want to hit this note, but I also maybe I can get away with doing it here, or let's see, where's there. Or maybe I want access to so maybe I want to be able to access that same flavor of A minor, but from somewhere else. So this is where the modes come in, and this is a little bit of where the error in thinking of each scale position as a mode starts to come into play. The way that I sort of described it to you, the scale that would be C to C, that's the 3rd mode. That's Ionian, but not if C isn't actually playing. If C is playing, then anytime I'm hitting C, E, or G, or notes 3, 5, and 7 from the A minor scale, then it's Ionian. So let's pick a little bit lower here. That's Ionian as hell. But if I start doing that stuff over an A, that's not Ionian anymore, because A is taking over the relationship, and it's pulling what I'm doing into a completely different context. So scale shapes are not modes, okay? And that's the hardest part, but you can only understand it when you hear how one of the other notes will take what you're playing and grab it and suck it into a totally different context like that. So if I chose A because I know that C, which I was starting on, is a third below, which means that suddenly it's like I'm playing the thirds. I'm playing off of the third of the mode. So in a way, this is Aeolian from A. If I go up to the third, 1, 2, 3, and play from that point of the scale, but the chord hasn't changed and it's still A, it's still Aeolian. And if I go to the fifth, 3, 4, 5, because I was already on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Okay, it's already on the third. The fifth of the scale, while A is still playing, while the root note's still playing, 1, still Aeolian. The melody is fairly Phrygian sounding, but the context is entirely Aeolian. So it's still Aeolian. The chord itself is chord number 1. So that's the mode right now. So I'm playing not over the music, but within it, and that is what changed. That's what's the difference here. It's not that I'm not playing. Well, that A that I was just playing, that is the constant. That's the reference. So that the whole context is entirely based on the presence of that A, and for as long as that's there, what I'm doing is in the context of that. It's like that's like the entire band going. And until they stop doing that and go, move over to the next chord, it's still going to be, no matter what mode or whatever, scale shape I decide to play over it, until that context changes, I'm entirely inside of the Aeolian scale, because the notes I want to land on are 1, 3, and 5, like in the little image on the bottom left of the screen. Okay, so 1, 3, and 5 are the hot spot. Oh, sorry, that's not the right image. Sorry, 1, 3, and 5. All right, so while an A is playing, that image. Sorry. Now, while this A is playing, no matter where I go up and down my scale, I still need to kind of make my way back over to a 1, a 3, or a 5. So this is where it's a good guideline to find your way around and think of it as like which mode, all right? But it's not really, if there's music playing in the background and there's a context, that's the mode. Chord number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 in the scale is really what mode you're actually in. Okay, so because you're always harmonizing against what's actually already there in the music. Okay, if you're practicing in your room and there's no context, you're just playing up and down, fine, you can consider that scale to be Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, or Mixolydian. But otherwise, you're actually just trying to land on one of the 3 notes of the chord, which is sort of what's going to take over the mode. This is how you use modes. Okay, this is not how they're typically taught, because it's much easier to pack a book like this, loaded full of it, and leave the entire burden of hearing what each one sounds like to the reader. However, that will take you a goddamn lifetime, and that's not fun either. So there are those 7 modes that I would recommend. Where you start? Right there, the first couple pages of that book. I do recommend The Guitar Program. I think it's a great book. I've had it since I was a young teenager, and I think that out of all the scales and modes books that are available, I still think it's actually the most comprehensive and useful. It has way more than I'm ever going to need to use in it, but I think that once you understand the really weird symbols and stuff that are in it, you'll realize that it's loaded with valuable information, but it's not particularly friendly to new eyes and people who are new to music theory, but that doesn't mean it's not super valuable. You just have to learn what the stuff means. And I'll help you with that too if you want. ShredMentor.com, fill out the form and set up a free coaching session, and yeah, we can talk about whatever you need to understand to get a better grasp and application of theory. But even if you haven't done that, or if you're not planning on doing that, you should get access to guitar practice tools. So go to guitarpracticetools.com right now, set up the free trial, and start working with this thing, because this is how you get over the stumbling block of modes. Okay. There is another approach to modes. We got 15 more minutes here, so I want to touch on this again. I'm going to throw everything about modes at you in a single hour, and I'm going to hope as much of it sticks as possible. But there is another thing I'm going to show you. This is a different way of treating each of those modes. Before I said that's like every mode is like a scale in its own right. It is, okay? And just to throw that at you, all right, I said I was going to do everything in A minor tonight. I lied. Well, I forgot that I was going to do this. I didn't lie. I meant it. I meant it at the time, but I've changed my mind because this is the reason. I'm going to just play A all together, and I'll go back up here to A on my 12th fret of my 5th string, and I'm going to play the Aeolian scale just from A to A and back. And then I'm going to play the arpeggio that comes after it. So you get the chord flavor from it specifically, as well as the overall context of where we are in the scale. Okay. Now, with A still playing, I'm going to change key. I'm going to play A Locrian, as if A is the second note of a scale. That's the Locrian sound, A Locrian. Now I'm going to do A Ionian, as if I'm on the third of some other minor scale, which would be F sharp minor. Ionian. That's the that's major. That's what we all know as major. Let's do a Dorian. Okay, that's the Dorian sound. It's a little lighter than regular minor, all right, but it can be very magical sounding as well, as possibly blues sounding as well. Now I'm going to do a Phrygian. Got that nice ominous half step above the root. Okay, that is a Phrygian. Now we're going to do a Lydian. It's a major sound overall, but then we have this mysterious just to kind of give you the flavor there. All right, and the next one and final one is a Mixolydian, which is a different kind of major flavor. All right. So anyway, it's very similar to major. If you didn't know what you're saying, you could easily mistake it for just regular old major, which is Ionian, but Mixolydian is in fact its own flavor. Right? So that's just another way of treating these modes as their own scale, and that's actually a great way to kind of really target a certain flavor. You've seen me do stuff with drones before. This wasn't on a ShredMentor live episode, but a little while, well, I guess a couple weeks ago, when I first tried to do the last episode, which was basically just the art of improv, I actually did like a half hour, 45 minutes live session on Facebook, purely just improvising over drones and just having fun. And you can find that on my profile, or only on my profile actually. So facebook.com/JasonAaronWood. But that's basically what I'm kind of doing when I do this kind of thing. So when let's get away from A, let's try F. I'm going to do some cool Lydian stuff again. All A minor, going back to A minor again. All right. So I could easily just jump into F minor, but I'm going to do. That's a very dissonant note, but it's so important. That note is so important to that mysterious sound. Because it's right between two notes that are super consonant against the root note, but it is actually super dissonant. Just major, right? Root, third, fifth, and right below that fifth, a half step. I can always resolve it right back to either of the notes on either side. Sound familiar? The Simpsons? The Simpsons does it from C, by the way. Right, that's... Let's go back to F. Like you say. At least I'm going to try to stay with A minor. Oops. Right, that note really sets the stage, because that's the main thing. All that other stuff would have been very, very major, just straight up major. But that is one of the most important things about it, is when you have this one ingredient that changes the whole vibe, you've got to capitalize on that from time to time. That is how I try. So I could do that whole thing again from A. I can do an A Lydian kind of sound. So instead of, you know, coming from the context I just played, it sounds like A minor right away. But as soon as I just that's where the sound lives, right there. Root third, raised fourth, fifth. All right, that's it. You can add whatever other notes. In a way, that's what I've also found over the years too, is that every mode sort of lives in a certain place. If you want to capture the essence of that, you can, you know, you can do that with a certain way of using a couple different notes, and Lydian in particular. That's a great way to do it. We are kind of running out of time. I've got 4 minutes, but I want to introduce one last little nifty way that you can kind of compare. Probably the first way I ever thought of that you can kind of understand what changes when you change modes, okay? And this is very simple, but basically, if you don't know it already, take the Ozzy Osbourne riff from Crazy Train, though. Okay, just that part. Now, that is Aeolian. That's F sharp Aeolian. So once again, for what we're doing here, I'm not going to change it to A minor. But here's the thing. Think of it as numbers, okay? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's an open E. That's 7, okay? So F sharp is 1 this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that will be your 1, okay? So the riff is 1, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 5, 1, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 7. Okay? Now here's the thing. That's the Aeolian scale. You know what the riff sounds like? That is the Aeolian scale. Change it to Dorian now. What changes? You raise the sixth. This is going to ruin the riff, by the way, but 1, 1, 5, 1, 6, 7. No, 1, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 5, 1. You can see how important that flat 6 is to that attitude that the riff originally had. Sounds kind of lame now. Right? So anyway, that's what happens when you go from natural minor or Aeolian to Dorian, is you end up, the sixth is higher by 1/2 step. Otherwise, it's the same scale, but it's no longer in the same place. The sixth moves up 1/2 step for Dorian. So in minor or Aeolian, whatever the 5 is, the power chord note, it's 1/2 step higher. You can see how important that is to that epic kind of sound or the attitude that comes with it. Similarly, we're going to go from Aeolian, the original riff, to Phrygian. What we're going to do here is take the second note and we're going to lower it. So we're not going to hit that to a little later in the riff, but as I'm used to the original riff. Right? Totally different flavor. It's a little darker. I think I prefer the original. I think there's probably a reason. I don't know if Randy Rhoads bothered to consider that option either, but it sounds, I guess we're all used to the original, but that's the difference. This is a really interesting way to take the different modes and experiment with their different flavors, is to look at what is different. This is, again, what I call the scale comparison strategy. You're working with two scales that you already know are one note away from each other. And these three scales are built right into every key anyway. They happen at the 1, 4, and 5. On a minor scale, the 1 is minor. Surprise, right? 1 is minor in a minor scale, but so is 4 and 5. In a major scale, 1 is major. Surprise, once again, right? 1 is major, but so is 4 and 5. So, just to show you, A minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where you get the 1, 4, 5 progression. Right, now in major, C major, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've heard that progression a million times in your life too. 1, 4, 5 is the most common progression, period, anywhere. There's a lot of interrelatedness between these chords, but when it comes down to getting the hang of where are those flavors in the key, they're on 1, 4, and 5. All three of the minor chords in the minor scale happen on 1, 4, and 5. In the relative major of that, so the 3, 6, and 7. But if you're in the same key, that's what C major would be. But 1, 4, and 5, if you're considering C to be 1, C, D, E, F, and G. Those are the two major chords that are right next to each other. So 1, 4, and 5 from major as well. But anyway, these are patterns that already exist in the scale, but again, depending on what note you decide to play it over and what type of pattern you try to play over top of that note, that's what the modes really come down to. It's not so much starting the scale from a different note. That's part of it, but you're implying that that note is the root note right now by starting it from that note. All right, so that's where, as usual, what everyone says is super incomplete, lacking context, and therefore, to the degree it's so incomplete that it's actually misleading. And so I hope I cleared some stuff up for you and showed you how you can develop your ear for this and your vocabulary using guitar practice tools or a drone. If you want to sit there and map out a 10-minute drone in your recording software, have at it, no problem. If you want a lot of the work done for you, go to guitarpracticetools.com, set up your free trial for 7 days, just start using it, start training your ear to pay attention to which notes actually lock into the harmony against that note, because that's what I'm really doing here. I'm harmonizing a backing chord. And we're going to get into some killer chord changes next week, and I'm going to show you how you can take this and really build on it on a whole new level. So we're going to start to get outside the key, but we're going to keep returning back to these flavors and their counterparts in harmonic minor and other stuff. All right, so don't miss that. That's going to be next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, as always. But I'm out of here. Thank you all for joining me. So I really appreciate it. I hope that I'm hoping that the lack of questions means that you are totally nailing this now. But you got to use this, okay? Don't just take this as, oh, interesting, cool tips, bro, and then not use it. Please go play it against a note. Again, use the drones. In fact, if you don't want to do that, I get it. Go over to ShredMentor.bandcamp.com. Find the drones. It's the only one with like pillars, and the only album cover that has like pillars and a 3D landscape or some weird stuff like that. Just do that instead. You can get these drones there. Or slightly different drones. Actually, I don't think those are the ones on. Doesn't matter. A note that doesn't have any thirds or fifths or anything, just a single note, multiple octaves, that's the tool you want to use. As soon as you start to introduce another note, you're starting to narrow the possibilities of which mode or scale you're hinting at. So if I had a minor third in there along with my A, I'm now going to be limited to something that uses an A and a C. All right, so now, significantly, I really only have 4 choices. Right? I really, as far as diatonic scales go, I have A minor, Aeolian. I have A Locrian because there is at least a C in there, right? So that's basically the diminished one, but it wouldn't be a consonant sounding one. That's the one that happens on B naturally in that scale. It could also be Dorian, which is where D lives in this scale, or Phrygian. So that as soon as I have an A and a C, I go from 7 flavors in one, or basically 7 flavors. I'm narrowed down to 4, just by adding 1 extra note. So context, you're narrowing it down as soon as you have more things going on. More other notes present in what you can hear limits what your options are, which can be actually a very good thing, but know that that is how this is going to work. Anyway, that is all for tonight. Thank you once again for joining me. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next Tuesday. I did it. If I come close to it, I'm just going to say it out loud. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. Rock on until then.